for the greatest possible lifetime. The ingenuity of communication, the perfect arena. Trey Parker, Matt Stone, South Park Studios. I am applying for work with you, and you understand on the long term, I'm working to position for my studio, and I'm able to communicate freely. Um, and this does lead to profitability. So this is something that works, and I do cling to things that work. And today I'm here to talk with you guys. So we're setting the table so that we're all prepared. We get our thinking caps on. And the reason for that is because I think I've found something that'll actually work. And it has to do with the next episode of South Park. Now, what's critical to understand here is I'm not explaining an entire arcing three uh, I am suggesting something that would take 3 episodes to complete the story of, but it doesn't mean that I'm here to replace what Trey is already working on. In fact, what I think you'll find in the, you know, zen of perfect timing or love or something, there's like this thing where Trey's like, okay, I've got part of the next episode, but I'd really like just to kind of weave it together with something else. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. And that's why I'm excited to present my idea to Trey Parker right now. Okay, so let's get right into it. So, the next episode of South Park, the only things, like how many scenes are we talking about? How many, what exactly? So, the ingredients I'm talking about with working with Greta, and I was thinking actually maybe pair it with Stan, because Stan is sort of like this hero character. And what I really felt from Greta is that wow, her generation it has a superhero, and they're like, oh look, it's Greta, and so like this is very wholesome and good, very relevant, but it's also on a higher level. It's the appropriate response for the adults to actually reciprocate and say something that's constructive to something that's obviously so alive and healthy is the movement of every Friday, these kids walking out of school and stuff. And the best way to do that is to award Greta and actually give her her own action figure, give her a gratuity check so that she's able to do what she thinks is right and communicate with her group that is growing, and they're amazing. I'm completely inspired. Um, and I've got to control myself because I'll start getting so powerful with like this righteous spirit of the youth that I might lose part of what's important about my leadership. So I'm just going to try to hold myself together and maintain, even though, you know, Greta is happening on the world, man. That's amazing. So we want to worship that. We want to honor it. We want to award it. So how do we really do that though? And so this is what I'm talking about. The next episode of South Park, Trey's already got a lot in there. What I'm talking about feathering in is the introduction of the water wheel mill, and that there's this new family there. Now, what we're talking about is like, well, how many scenes? Okay, this means that there's no introduction, all this. What I would like to do is sort of this Goonies type thing where the boys, the four South Park boys, they're actually going on like they're trespassing and they break in to this place and they find this green wolf robot and they figure out that it's designed to defeat the problem with climate crisis. And so that episode, the next episode of South Park, could end with Stan giving a call to Greta and being like, I think we found a solution to our definite problem. And Greta's like, I'm on my way. Bing. And then it's done, cliffhanger, boom. Oh, the next episode's gonna have Greta in it. That's freaking awesome, right? And so that what I'm trying to say is like see how this can feather in to what Trey's already doing. Oh, that's perfect. Okay, so I'm trying to work with Trey on this. But of course, the way I feel about sort of the vessel or the ship of my story, my embargo, what I'm trying I can sort of feel how where it's flexible or what's really important about certain things. So it's totally relevant to say the next episode of South Park could simply introduce this character without feeling like oh, we have to introduce characters. I don't even I'm not even that type of storyteller. I'm not someone who says like, oh, we have to, get to like these characters first, and we need to, I think that's a lot of, the over systemizing of storytelling, and I can see it in modern fairy tales and storytelling. It's very systematic. It's like, oh, here, we have to spend time with these characters in order to fall in love with them. It's I just oh, I'm sorry. I feel it's so much more alive than that. And really, it's important, I think, to understand, you know responding to the voice of the children, and they're actually doing something. This is something in their life. They're leaving school on Friday, and they're marching with this passion. And it feels so good because they're sort of rebelling a little bit. They're leaving school and then saying, "Hey, this planet's mine. This future is mine." That's all good stuff, man. So we want to be the parents who are saying, "That's awesome. That's on the next episode. Boom, done." Okay, so if we break this into a three-part thing, and we're also talking about, w- uh, about the pan and his thing, like we want to have the good feelings here with this guy, and it sounds like he's got a lot to say. He wants to get into his own studio. Okay, we understand. And so that's about as far as you need to take it. We don't need to get confused about the terms and all. But this certainly would, the Green Wolf toy and the other characters, South Park characters, who made their own spark plugs and caused this thing. Okay, that would give me this, and then maybe Trey will help me with the loan or whatever and get me into studio, and I'll start working away. All right, so it's very good for me. It's very good for Trey Parker, and it's very good for Greta and for all the kids. So that's what's awesome. I'm not trying to. I'm trying to say the amount of what I'm presenting. I'm like, okay, the boat of the story that I'm presenting. For some people, would say it doesn't feel like a complete story. Well, that's because I'm trying to feather into what Trey's already got planned for next week. So this would only be like a few systematic changes, and Trey might say, "Oh, I have a storyline for next week, but this is perfect." Oh, then the boys go on an adventure, and they've got like a flashlight, and they break into this old thing because they're trying to see like who moved into the old water wheel mill over there because it started turning again. Right? And so it's like, oh, it started turning. Oh, there's a new people living there, and there's like lights or whatever, and so the boys go to investigate. So that can perfectly weave in. So then the second episode, it's like there's a couple different stages. Like on the top floor is where Millie lives, and she has her own sort of dynamic relationship where the room is part of the computer, and it's like this computer atmosphere, and it's integrating with the turning wheels of the old mill and integrating with cutting edge technology like XR and those applications. And we want to talk about that and have an opportunity to present new ideas or what we think would be a fantastic solution to that, which which suggests a brighter future. Okay, so it's inspirational in this way, but we're also talking about Greta. We're also talking about a sustainable path forward with the Green Wolf. About that, the men are here working on that solution. Children, that's not against their work. They're trying to get a response to their from their government and from their adults, and that's exactly what we're talking about here. So that's awesome, right? And so that's what I'm here really to say. I had this epiphany. I was like, oh, we don't have to be, the first episode doesn't have to be like, oh, this is all character revealing, for the Green Wolf. Not at all. You try to work with it. So Feathers in there. The second episode, it would be more about the technology and the application process. And so what I'm talking about is more lucid, where you understand that a performance with the computer can then take all of that information and turn it into a complicated, completed, rendered engine block. And so the Green Wolf character and the Halloween twins and Millie, and this sort of like the Halloween twins have their own arenas, they're different rooms where the South Park boys learn a little bit about how that. I understand this isn't exactly what South Park usually is, but I assure you, I'm not talking about some long ex like, oh, there's a lot of lines from the Green Wolf here to explain it. It's all visual. So, you instantly understand what they're saying. But there's also this mood, like the Halloween twins actually live there. And they're like deep, they're like homeschooled. So they're like deep in this thing of being like, we're always on camera. You always have to be real sharp. And the cameras of, our computer are rendering a solution. And so it's this meditation with technology. So anyway, the reason for all of that sort of introduction about this thing is sort of like you have like a CAT scan of a computer, and you kind of and you really think about what your idea is, and then you pound and you put that, and then the computer sort of like takes some snapshots and tries to analyze what it is that you're saying, and then it turns it into an engine block, which appears on the South Park as like a giant spark plug, which then plugs into the back of the Green Wolf robot, right? And so all of that sort of storytelling allows for the arrival of this superhero Greta. And so she arrives and she's like, "Oh, okay." And so basically she gets onto the recording spot and she performs stuff, and what we'll do is simply ask her to give us her best and newest, passionate battle cry about climate change. And that can happen, from her home studio. We're not worried about that. So then, and so then South Park animates her doing this thing, and she's like, performing for her generation, and it's very beautiful. Um, and that the computer takes that and renders out an engine block, and it goes into the Green Wolf. And so, and then Trey can also, again, has the opportunity to sort of like piece it together with other narratives that he has that he feels is really relevant. And that actually does help sustain the fabric of our family of different opinions working like see how the world is a little bit different, and but we're working together and all that. Yeah. And so the second episode sort of has this crescendo where Greta is the hero of the day, and we get to congratulate that. But this means also, like I said, that Greta has a gratuity check. She's getting a leg up, and it's relevant, and it's just sort of perfect for everyone involved. The third episode is, of course, simply that the Green Wolf finally does awaken and actually executes the Trash Island. And like I said, I am completely invested. I'm holding the ship of my presentation. I'm telling you, you understand how this is a working frame or a model that is conducive with Trey's intuition as a writer. And he's like, oh, that works. That can work perfectly with what I'm weaving and what I'm thinking about. See, it's not like Pan comes in and takes over South Park. Oh, the next 3 episodes have to be this guy. All right, not at all. It's simply that Trey's moving along and he has all these huge antlers. He's got the strength, and Pan nestles in there perfectly. We're already spring coiled, and then Greta transcends, and there's that and this sort of levity, and then it continues. And then what I was saying is like I could work with Trey just on 3 episodes, and then basically I'd be ready to start my own studio thing, and that would be my importance of like my attention and stuff. So I'm saying like the next season of South Park, and Trey might be like, "Oh, that's perfect," and then Trey's just free to have his opus again and holler and say whatever. I'm trying to be conducive with the creative environment here, and thank you guys so much. Thank you very much, Trey Parker and Matt Stone and South Park Studios. I am serious about this application. Please understand. And boy, I'm just full of ideas, and I'm really happy to work with you guys. And you know, there is more innovation in me. But what's important is like I can see how technology is suffering and stagnant. And what's exciting about the application of South Park is we have the opportunity to show how like the visuals of how games and advanced computers operate, and it's it's beautiful for everyone because they're like, oh, and then also Greta and her generation, oh, and also whatever Trey Parker is additionally saying, oh, and then it leads to the sort of hope rising up uh, for the green wolf and all that. And oh, that's going to happen. Okay, so it's about enlivening America and raising up this family. Absolutely, and I feel it all completely. You guys, I love you guys so much because in our own way, we're all kind of, oh, I want to do the best thing for America. I want to have the funniest episode. Oh, God, I want to get there. Okay, so I absolutely want to dispel this feeling of like, the Green Wolf is too much of a story for South Park. That's ridiculous, man. We just weave it together, and it's just a perfect weaving about correlating what's happening today in the news, what's important, and then delivering it and, making that statement. It's beyond reporting. It's about an initiative and getting things going and responding to what the youth are saying. All right. Thank you so much, South Park Studios. Thank you, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, for the greatest possible lifetime. That's why we're working together. It's a mutual understanding that we're all alive and we're on the line here. So let's get busy doing our best and making this world the greatest it can possibly be. Uh, the ingenuity of our complete um, I'm okay. I don't know. I'm feeling. I want to talk for another minute. 1 minute to win it. All right, you guys. We've been through a lot, and I just want to again breathe the clarity and the health. Like whatever this is, let's turn it into a diamond. Let's turn it into a treasure. Let's say, okay, that was a difficult experience, but let's now try to let the birds fly. All right, for the greatest lifetime possible. For the best possible, because 411 is information. So it'd be like, oh, thanks for the information, guy. No, this is personal, and we want to have that congratulation and say, okay, a real transformation for America. And it's almost like Trey has done the big parental thing where he's like, I've listened to this guy, and I think he is a representation of his generation, which was raised partially on South Park. So I get it. It's difficult, but it's also relevant, and I hope we can find that where we can be. Oh, so let's let the bird fly. All right. Thank you guys so much for the greatest possible lifetime and for making our world a better place. Thank you, Trey Parker and Matt Stone. Thank you so much. Uh, it is good.